Welcome to It Sunday Live here with the Average Joe Sports Show, getting you ready for a whiteout Sunday. Gary Sharp, the Iron Horse, Pride of Fairbury's Bill Doleman, bowler extraordinaire Elijah Herbel, and Chris Schmidt. Good to have you all. Check us out. Subscribe 7 days a week with the Average Joe Sports Show. YouTube, where you can find us, and then on Twitter as well, AJ Sports Radio. Fellas, going to be a big day. Rail yard's already getting smoked. Folks are leaving their cottages and finding their way down, getting in line, getting ready, going to get primed up. Wahoo Kurt is en route. He is shouted out already this morning.
Nice.
And it's going to be a banner day for Nebraska, opportunity-wise, to take down another top 10, defend home court. Illinois 2.0. We'll dive into it. It's junior day today. Some big visitors on campus. And you know what? Good vibes. Happy February, fellas.
Yes. So it is February.
Okay.
Is what is the start of today of a pretty important month. How awesome is this? This is a full tribute to what Fred and the boys have done this year. It's February 1. And, you know, like a Sunday home game where it's not night, but it's 3 o'clock, there would be a great crowd. But the fact that this is a top 10 matchup, Nebraska basketball is playing in a top 10 matchup at home on February 1st in a building in which people understand what they have to do. Like people will wear white today. There'll be a huge whiteout because the university got behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this underground stuff about, hey, let's have a blackout, and it's only like the students. But when the university gets behind it, people respond. But the one great thing about PBA is people understand the assignment when they go in there. Now, the basketball on the floor has been really good. They've won 12 in a row. But people know that they're part of the game. And the emotion of that crowd coming off of Michigan and knowing what the stakes are today and knowing what Nebraska needs, and Nebraska needs to take advantage of playing at PBA, what that affords you. Man, this is going to be another one of those great moments in that building. And we've actually had a couple of them already where the crowd has shifted the game. And I can think back in the month of December when that included a road game at Illinois that didn't have a Nebraska crowd, but remember Creighton and Wisconsin. So this is awesome today. This is great to talk about this.
Go back to a no-sit Sunday, and I was not here at that time. I was elsewhere. But that was an assignment game for Nebraska fans, and they responded, and people still are talking about it 10 years later or more. And that was, you gotta be here, you gotta show up, you gotta be loud, because just maybe Nebraska, if the Huskers win, might get into the NCAA tournament. Today, as Gary pointed out, this is two top 10 teams battling it out for a Big Ten championship, perhaps, and perhaps the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's remarkable to think what the stakes are compared to what it was 10 years ago. And please just show up and give us the best home court advantage we possibly can have. And I've always said, you know, even at the Devaney Center, Nebraska, when it gets rolling, or when the crowd comes in, it can be a really good home court advantage. But this one is just, the stakes are, and it's never been like this before. And I think people want to be a part of it, especially after what they saw at Michigan.
Yeah, and Nebraska's a favorite, guys. I mean, you know, the Michigan State game was on tilt. Nebraska is playing in a top 10 matchup on February 1st, 2026, and they're a favorite. Now, it might just be 2.5, but that just shows you, and us four, and I think people in our great audience and community, nobody goes, oh, that doesn't seem right. Like, this seems right. The Nebraska should be in this position with this current team to be playing today as the higher ranked team and as a slight favorite on their home court. This is such a great story.
But it's the legitimate conversations people are having this week, where is Nebraska legitimately a contender to be a Final Four team? And I personally believe those conversations are premature because of the fact you get in the NCAA tournament, matchups matter. But this team seems to be the type of team to just kind of fly in the face of that is they can match up with anybody. That's what it feels like so far. I mean, we keep on asking the question, well, what are they going to do when they play an athletic and physical team like Michigan? Well, they're going to go shoot the lights out and put up 50 points in the first half, and their defense is still going to cause a team like that issues. Like, it's every single time we ask, well, what if they play a team like this this team always responds. So I'm curious to see what it looks like in March, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. This team is favored rightfully so, as Gary was saying today, because they are, in my eyes, a team that if they keep things rolling through March, they can be a Final Four team. Now, you need a little bit of luck on your side in March Madness to get to a Final Four always, but this team has what it takes in my eyes, which is ridiculous to say when you're talking about a Nebraska basketball team.
We're talking about, their ceiling in February, not what do they got to do to get in, which is great, and that's a tribute to Fred and this squad. But the other part of this too is you look at the big you look at all of the Big Ten standings that are out, and you look at what Michigan did to Sparty. I know we touched on it a little bit yesterday in the weekend edition, but right now you're Nebraska, you're tied with Illinois for second, you're a half game back of Michigan, you're going to have the tiebreaker ahead of Sparty as far as holding home court, and it's going to be a death march, but it's going to be a march you can survive if you're Nebraska for a regular season Big Ten title. I know that how far they go in March is the end game, but the other part of this journey too is where's Nebraska and what do they do? How do they finish regular season Big Ten? Because that's get the first in March, totally get it, but also a conference championship. That hasn't happened for I need to phone Mike Babcock, I guess is what I'm saying.
This could be the second of 3 meetings between these two teams. And 2 of the last 4 have gone to overtime. They played some entertaining games. I think before we dive into any discussion about breaking down the hot and cold and live by the 3, die by the 3, that kind of both of these teams have a tendency to do, and what the difference is in terms of offensive rebounding, I think it starts and probably stops with the availability of Mast and Frager. And not only their talents, but I think as we saw on Tuesday in Ann Arbor, Nebraska wore down. So just from the point of depth, like if they can both go, how many minutes can they give you? And when does Fred select those minutes? Like if they're on a semi not public minute restriction because of, can they hang and bang for 25 to 30 minutes? So, Illinois looks like a team that can overcome Boswell, who is out again today, their point guard with a broken right hand. I don't know that Nebraska against this team can afford not to get at least 15 minutes from Frager and Mast. Against Michigan, I think you can, and you got to shoot lights out. I just don't think today, because of the physicality, you cannot have both of those guys give you at least 15 minutes.
They've got to be available, and Frager was at the Southwest game yesterday for the Hack Championship. Didn't see a boot on him, so I think I'm going to just project here and play doctor for 2 seconds on a podcast. I think he's doing all right, but what 100% can Frager give you, right? What's that percentage at? What's his power? Same with Rink. And it's, depth is going to be so key where they need to go in and perform when they're in and give you really effective spurts. A guy I'm interested to watch this afternoon, he has been fantastic because of his pace, but also his scoring, is Jamarcus Lawrence. In the last 5 games, he's had 2 20-point outings. You know how he got cooking for a stretch there at Michigan. I mean, hit some really tough shots and then got to the rim as well. He has been another big-time story for Nebraska. Price is Price. Illinois is going to send 30 guys at him today, the way he started up in Champaign. And then there's Berke. How does he handle things? Because he has got such a skill set, and his ability on switches defensively is fantastic. But does he give you a double-digit day offensively, point-wise, and a little bit of redemption for the guy? Could have had 12, 14 points against Michigan. He played his butt off. He just missed some shots. Does he come back the right way offensively? And he's been very selective about what he's tried to score. Mm-hmm. He's not forced it. And that's what's great about this team is you got a whole host of characters that really don't force it.
Yeah, he's, and I said yesterday, he's somebody that's got I would rather see him have more rebounds than points.
Right.
The thing about this matchup, and it's very curious. Going back, the first meeting, yes, Sanford got hard. He got hot. He had 26 points in the first half, and that helped Nebraska. He finished with 32. And him and J-Law got off to a good start in Ann Arbor, but then Sanford kind of cooled off. The thing about and this is the first time Nebraska's playing a team for the second time. And the way Nebraska plays, especially on defense, where they force you to shoot a lot of threes. Now Illinois is comfortable shooting a lot of threes. It takes a little bit of an adjustment. But I thought Illinois was really poor in communication on defense the first time they played Nebraska. I think Nebraska caused them some problems with their offensive sets, their cutting. I think Illinois was very lackadaisical. They didn't talk much. They didn't communicate. They weren't connected on defense. And they didn't get connected until late. So what does that look today? But I think with going back to Bear K, and whoever it is, Nebraska needs to crash the glass. When Illinois misses shots, you got to get to the glass, because Illinois, 17% of their points come off offensive rebounds. And, it's going to be a second chance point day. On the other end, Nebraska doesn't send a lot of guys to the glass. They shoot a lot of threes, but it's not like Sanford shoots a three and 4 guys go to the glass. It's sometimes 2 go back or 3 go back. So I think the offensive rebounds and the second chance points will be big. But a guy like Bear K, who can cause some problems because of his size, I think he's got to have a big day. And then scrappers, Sam Hoiberg, hey, despite being 6'1" or whatever he is, according to the program, he's a guy that grabs rebounds. Jacobson. Nebraska needs probably a full 40 minutes of really smart basketball. Now, it'd be nice to make some shots, but I think they need to be on point today from start to finish to win this game.
Do you think we see any Leo Curtis with his size down low?
I think you probably do. I mean, I don't, what did he play, 8 minutes against Michigan? And that was enough.
Productive.
I think Fred's got the arsenal. Again, it comes back, how comfortable is Maston Frager? Because you can get them in early, but their absence of their usual minutes, that shows over the course of 40 minutes like it did Tuesday night. But I think you use everybody available. I think you throw so many bodies at Illinois. That you cause some, you make Brad Underwood coach during the game.
Don't you think Illinois, though, in the first meeting was looking at the name on the front of the jersey thinking this just cannot be happening? This guy's going to cool off, and he's Sanford, and he's got 26 points in the first half. That they probably took Nebraska a little lightly going in. And the crowd was not into that game until the end of the first half, when they came back from 13 down and tied it up, and then it got tied at the end. So the crowd was not into it, because I think it was they're playing Nebraska. There was somewhat of a given, even though they've had some tight games, in recent history. So I don't think that Illinois is going to come into this game and be caught off guard by anything that Nebraska does. Nebraska is a 2.5 point favorite because of the crowd. And I think most people would look at the matchup and say, look, Illinois is probably going to come in here angry. They need to get more production out of their big guy. What's his name? Ivicic? He had like 3 points when they played.
There's a lot of Vitches.
Yeah.
Ivicic and Vitches.
But he had like 3 points against Nebraska, and he's 7'1". You would think that they would try to get him a little bit more involved. If Rink Mass can't go and they put Curtis in. I just think Illinois is going to be much more motivated this time around than they were the last time. And Nebraska cannot go into a 3-minute cooler like they did into the Michigan game. That's what cost them. And if Illinois goes on any kind of run and builds a double-digit lead, I don't think that they have the mindset going into the rematch that they're going to let up any. If Nebraska goes on scoring droughts of 3 minutes, I don't think that bodes very well, no matter when it happens.
Here's my question, though. You just got done facing Michigan, who defensively is right there with you. From a physicality standpoint, it's just a war when you play Michigan State. Where do you guys think Illinois' defense is at? I mean, they've won ball games by outscoring folks. It's not that they can't or don't play defense, but their priority, to your point, Sharpie, is they're going to go get the offensive glass. That's what they do extremely well. But defensively, they're better. But are they what you've seen comparable wise to what Michigan and Michigan State are? I mean, no. Is Nebraska's offense just that good that whatever Michigan, or I should say Illinois, decides to throw at them, it doesn't matter because they're just not as good of a defensive team? That's the question I have.
Yeah, what is I think Illinois is last or next to last in turnovers forced. So they're not They're not a super aggressive defense. They have size, but you're right. They have a tendency against teams that are really well built offensively. They get into games at like 86, 83. Or if you look at the Purdue game last weekend, I mean, that was a high scoring game. I think with, they're Nebraska's defense, the way Nebraska plays defense is probably better than Illinois. Illinois just has a lot of size.
Yeah.
Illinois will muck the game up and they will rebound your misses. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I think it's a make or miss sport, and we say that and we go, oh yeah. But there's a great stat out there that Illinois is 7-0 against teams that are in the top 100 in the Ken Palm, which Nebraska is, when they shoot 35% or better from 3-point range. They're 1-3 when they don't. So, they know how Nebraska is going to defend the 3-point line, because Nebraska, 51% of their shots are from 3-point range, and they force their opponents to take 49% of their tough threes. So I think it's a make or miss sport, but it's not like they're going to cause havoc, but they also don't turn the ball over very much. So this is like a game where every possession matters.
For sure.
Illinois is 30. I think they're one of the best 3-point defensive teams in the country, like at just over 30% or something that they allow. And Nebraska's game was a total anomaly, because I think the Huskers were something like 12 of 26 or 27.
They were on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the worst 3-point shooting defense in a game that Illinois has had all season long. And they still only lost the game by 3.
I don't think it's an anomaly, Bill. That's the thing, is I look at this. You don't want to get into a 3-point shooting contest with Nebraska.
No.
Nebraska will beat almost every team in the country if you try to get into a 3-point shooting contest with them. Because you can also look at just Tuesday night. And Michigan is, according to KenPom, #1 defense in the country. Their metrics with their defense are spectacular. They don't let teams put up many points on them. Nebraska hung a 50 burger on them in the first half.
Yeah.
Now, they made adjustments, and that's a credit to Michigan. They made some big-time adjustments. They're doing a better job face guarding Price. They were grabbing a lot more guys off ball, and hey, if they're not going to call it, keep on doing it. So they made some adjustments, but you can look, man, teams don't shoot like that from 3 against Illinois. Teams don't put up 50 points against Michigan in the first half. Well, Nebraska does, and that's kind of the point I was getting at earlier. It's we keep on laying out these like, well, we'll see what happens whenever this Husker team plays a team like this. Right now, their offense just seems to be one of those offenses that no matter what you do, you're not going to stop them. Maybe slow them down a little bit, but you got to put up big points to beat this Husker basketball team.
Yeah, I think that we've discussed this. I think almost every Sunday, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. I mean, Nebraska basketball is a good basketball team.
There's no shoe.
Yeah, it is the way that I think Nebraska loses, and not in tight games, because that can be here or there a moment in the game. I think to beat Nebraska where you win like 85-76, it comes down to the simple part of Nebraska goes ice cold and the opponent can't miss. And Nebraska really hasn't had a game like that this year. Now, they've had some games where the opponent has shot well from 3, but Nebraska's shot exceptionally well. We talk about the crowd today. Illinois just played at Purdue. That's a pretty loud crowd, but I think a start is pretty important. I think, that hot start in Champaign, the hot start in Ann Arbor, build some confidence. Maybe if you have a little Maston Frager in the lineup, I think a hot start is pretty important for Nebraska to get into a lather and play well and get into a nice rhythm, because I think this is going to be a 40-minute game. I think this is going to be a great showcase for the Big Ten of two teams that, if you bumped into somebody on the street today and you said, I could see both of these teams probably playing 3 weeks in March. Now, somebody might go, oh, that team from Champaign, but watch Nebraska. I mean, I think Nebraska has things that allow them to beat teams that are not familiar with them, which you'll face when you get to the NCAA tournament.
It's Gary Sharp, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, Sunday Live, Average Joe Sports Show. We're here every Sunday for you, 10:30. YouTube with the Average Joe Sports Show, on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio, AJ Sports Pod, Nebraska, Illinois. Can chime in on the stream. What do you think the difference is today? And Fred nailed that with his postgame, or his pregame rather, with just how this team's been good at it. Their starts, they've come out, thrown the first punch. They've been effective offensively. At home, they really figure things out after that first under 16 timeout. That's when they kind of seize a lot of game control typically go into halftime up by anywhere between 7 and double digits, and then there's that early run out of halftime where they bury you, where you go on a 9-0 spurt, a 12-2, something like that, and then all of a sudden you look up and you've got a 30-point spread on an Oregon, on a Wisconsin team, right? And the only team that really kept it back and forth, and Nebraska's been really good, by the way, in tight ball games, was that Michigan State game, where that thing was a rock fight because of both the physicality and the teams not hitting consistently from three. So I'm wondering how it kind of starts out. Nebraska's also had some slower starts at home. They've been good on the road.
Yeah. I have a question though about today.
Mm-hmm.
So they're bringing back the football slam dunk contest at halftime.
Mm.
There is no Harburg. There is no Emmett Johnson. There is Quinn Clark though. I told you guys, buy stock in Quinn Clark. Will we see next fall like Connor Esigian, Berkay, Sanford? Will they be able to throw footballs into a basketball hoop at halftime of a football game?
Thankfully, that's been retired. That has been retired.
No, that was football players. That was quarterbacks. That was when I knew that Nebraska had issues behind Dillon last year because no one could throw a pass. Why can't we do that next fall at football? Has basketball gotten big enough that we can do that? I mean, come on.
I don't need to see it.
Well, I would love to see Berkay throw a football. He was at the blackout. You remember they had the little pep rally they have over in the Hawks Championship Center. The basketball team was there. Berkay had eye black on. He was wearing a black shirt jersey. I would love to see him throw a football.
I want more Law and Order spoof episodes with him wearing a 1600 wig and a robe. I mean, I think that stuff's funny where he's got the gavel. He's got this crazed look in his eye like he's going to sentence someone to life.
If you guys were going to take a member of this basketball team and draft him for the football team, who are you taking and what position are you putting him at?
Ooh, Cale Jacobson was I believe that Cale Jacobson was a really good football player at Ashland Greenwood.
Taking Sam as a safety.
Good call. I bet he'd be a hit sticker.
Yeah.
Be a Shane Swanson like wingback.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Wow. John Bostic is waiting in the green room. I don't like Jared
Garcia as like a defensive end.
Yes.
That might be your one.
I'm smiling about the John Bostic call. Number 18.
You know what? Hey, a little side note about John Bostic. So this is when I first started following Nebraska football. John Bostic pissed me off, and I didn't even know him until later.
How'd this happen?
Because you remember when Nebraska players used to change their numbers all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And he had, 18, and he went to 4? Because I used to memorize the Nebraska football roster every year. And back then, it seemed like every year, guys would change their numbers from year to year. And so he was the first guy I remembered. And I actually brought that up to him the first time I met him post his Nebraska career. Yeah, I probably could have gone with a better opening line.
He probably forgot about it.
Was he from? He's from Seattle, Washington, wasn't he?
It was Bellevue or somewhere like that. But old John Bostic, touchdown catch against the Huskies in both games, that home and home series, and those were some squads. So interested here as we look at Nebraska. You mentioned the crowd. We all know how important PBA magic is, and that sixth man mentality that the fan base has. Folks have reveled in just the success of this team's success this year. So what type of ref show, or do you get one today? I want to go there because the Nebraska fan base is smarting from Michigan. Some are anyway. And then there's been quite a handful of phantom calls when they do get the replay on the Jumbotron of whistles against Nebraska players. And listen, the officials, I believe, try to do their best, but sometimes you just miss, right? And the fan base is going to go they're already level 8 out of 10 half the time with a bad call because there's this belief that the Big Ten has it in for Nebraska in multiple sports. But the first bad call today or questionable call today, it is going to get absolutely loud and come unhinged. What point of the game does that happen? The first whistle against Nebraska or the first bad whistle against Nebraska?
If somebody runs over Sam Hoiberg and he gets
And
called
there's no
for a
whistle.
block, it's on. It will be on. That's the one. That's the shortest fuse of the day. Is if Sam has position, gets run over, block is the call, and he's outside the circle. That will light it up. And Troy Dannon will open up the doors, and the fire marshal will look the other way, and I'll have even more people come to
The big red cavalry is on standby. There's going to be 1,000 people standing on the bridge trying to get in. First bad whistle, Dannon's going to look, and there's going to be some guy in an executioner's mask. He'll open the doors.
Yeah.
Here comes 1,500 more, 2,000 more Nebraska fans.
Do we know who's officiating today?
No, internally you do. I'm looking. So, it's not a super busy Sunday in college basketball. So some of the better officials would be available. Iowa State wasn't at home. Creighton was at home, but I don't think those guys will be working a Big Ten game. I'm looking. This feels like a Kip Kissinger game.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if it's going to be a Kelly Pfeiffer game.
Maybe. Kelly Pfeiffer's been out on the West Coast for like a week. I've seen him out working like WCC games. But whoever it is, that I think it'll be one of the better Big Ten crews because it's a good stage game. It's a 3:00 window on FS1. But you're right. Like the crowd, that's where Nebraska does a really good job of using PBA as an advantage because it will be an angry crowd. And there's people that have paid pretty good money to get into the building today that don't normally go to games. And so when you pay a little bit more, you expect something and you're engaged. It's a whiteout. People will be lathered up. It's 4 hours before tip-off, and there's people tailgating right now in the festival lots. People are down in the rail yard. Oh, but Nebraska does a good job of keeping the crowd engaged. Or the crowd when fans feel like Nebraska needs a bump, Nebraska fans get into it, and I don't have any concern about that. But I think it'll be an extremely physical basketball game.
And just because somebody falls doesn't mean there's a foul.
Thank you.
And officials just live by that. I did the women's game the other night, and there was a play where there was contact, and then there was a whistle. And we probably had about a 3+ minute delay because they didn't know what to call. There's just contact and nothing really happened, nothing really egregious, but they had to review the whistle to figure out why did I blow my whistle? And I don't remember exactly how they finally adjudicated it, but it was like, there must have been something. So I'm going to blow my whistle and let's go review it. And then we'll come up with a call. That's exactly the way it went down. Now, I've not seen that in the men's game, but just because somebody falls doesn't mean there's always a foul.
Thank you. And that is, that needs to be a PSA statement before.
Yeah.
Well, do you think is this a game where Nebraska stands a better chance or a worse chance if it's a no blood, no foul type of game?
I want it physical.
It depends on if how much Mast and Frager are going to play because you remember you got to have depth.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a little bit of time off, comparatively speaking to Illinois.
But here, so
They spend a lot though at Michigan.
Illinois is second in the country in the fewest fouls called on them per game at only 13 per game. They're behind South Alabama.
Are they that good at defending, or is it because the world is scared of Underwood?
Well, I think they do a really good job of defending without fouling. Kind of Nebraska does the same thing, because Nebraska is 8th in the same category.
Okay. So who gets
So they don't have this
the-
reputation. Illinois doesn't have this reputation that Michigan does. Oh, Michigan's really good defensively. We'll just let them do what Michigan does because I bet they're not fouling even though they're physical. Illinois doesn't seem to have that reputation with this particular team, but they don't foul very often. That's why they don't send you to the line very much. So and they don't turn teams over. So, every possession really matters during the course of a game against Illinois because they're so efficient offensively. I mean, they're what, 100 and they average what, 130 points per 100 possessions. So they force you to score and match them. And Nebraska was able to do that in the first matchup.
So, going to ask the question, what can you live with today if you're Nebraska with Keaton Wagler, point-wise?
We can't let him have 42.
Clearly.
I think that would be a bad thing. Then he'd be on a heater. Now, if he's got 42 and everybody else says 10, then it's probably problematic.
Well, the efficiency part's what's incredible about him when you look at his Purdue game.
So his
20 the other night.
So let's do this. So let's do this with the two main scorers in this game. So, Wagler I really like his passing ability, but Nebraska did a really good job. And he's grown in a month since they've seen him. Remember, he turned the ball over 3 times against Nebraska. He can be a little bit peanut butter fingers if you force him a little bit and don't let him just free flow. But man, he's a playmaker. He can shoot. He can pass. Nebraska, and in Nebraska, their heavy switching offense. Does Nebraska hedge a little bit where they get more hands in the lanes to deflect passes? But let's do this. So his prop total for points today is 21.5. Over or under? He had 46 a week ago. Had 22 against Washington, their last time out on Thursday.
I think if he's at, man, that's a good question. I don't know how I'd want to attack it. If he goes for 30 to Bill's thought, if everyone else has 12 and 10, he can get his, but you'll win the game. If he's scoring right at 20 to 22 points, that means you've got a couple, 3 other scores typically with Illinois' offensive output. And that means it's going to be dicier. Let him go for more. And hopefully he doesn't have much help. So if you want a Nebraska win, I'd say give him the overs.
He put up 19 in 40 minutes the last time these two teams played. That being said, he is playing a different level of basketball right now. Recently, the confidence that he's playing with. He also played, for what it's worth, a full 40 minutes against Nebraska the last time around. But stick Sam Hoiberg on him, and I'll take the under.
Okay.
I think he goes over. I think they try to ride him to see if he's still on a heater for a little while. And he'll see if he's still on a heater for a little while. And if he's not, it could be a frustrating day. If he's not rolling early, sometimes it gets in a head, especially of a freshman in a building like that and the atmosphere that it's going to be. If the shots aren't falling, then maybe he retreats just a little bit.
So here's one that I think you immediately go over. So Sanford's point prop today is 18.5. Yeah.
Price got to have about 25 today, don't you think? Or be close to what he was the first time out. I mean, that was a special performance.
Put up 32 the first time around. Is that right?
Yeah, and 26 of those were in the first half.
And the thing that is kind of glossed over is Nebraska, and Sam told us the next morning that they felt good even when it got tight, that they had quite a bit of control of that game anyway. They jumped out to 13. Illinois tied it. They jumped back up 8 after a technical and then had that cushion. And that's, to me, I don't know that they jump out double digits quite a bit early. I think maybe they have a chance to win by double digits if things are rolling and if guys are healthier, but I'm just not feeling it today, though, that it's gonna. I think Illinois has an answer. I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'm taking the points in Illinois today, and that's not to set fire to the fan base. That's just I think it's really tough to beat this team. Illinois is tremendous. And Nebraska did a great job the first meeting. I think Illinois might have an answer because of the question marks we have about Nebraska being full strength with Rink and with Frager. You didn't get much from Frager that first meeting. That's about
He didn't
the only
score.
Yeah, that's the only time you didn't get much from him this season. So
he did get the technical. That's when we learned how big of a Richard he is, according to Sam. Remember?
Hey, let me. Yeah. Hey, and you remember the stuff at the end of the game after J-Law hit the shot?
Yeah,
right
the middle finger that he
yeah.
smacked away.
He's special. You know what about Sanford's season? And again, huge win for Fred, knowing that he was the guy he wanted, out of the portal from Iowa. Does it seem like, and again, he had the heater at Illinois. He's gone, what is Sanford now? Is it 5 straight games where he's had, or 4 straight games where he's had 20, 5 straight games where he's had 20 or more? You remember Casey's last year? He had 76 threes, and we went, oh, wow, this is awesome. We are entering February 1st, and Sanford has 73.
He's been incredible. And the thing that's going to be important is that he's the final 8 to 5 minutes from a legs standpoint. Is he going to have them, right? I think they've done a good job of trying to recover this week. After that Michigan game, you've got Illinois coming in, and Washington, like Washington's done all year. I mean, they pushed Illinois. They were on the road in Lincoln and covered, late cover, I might add. They also went in against Illinois and only lost by 9. So that speaks a little bit to Washington. But, Illinois has been on such a run with this. They haven't lost to Captain's Point since Nebraska beat them.
Yeah,
it goes back to December, man.
So, yeah, they learned some things. I mean, I think Nebraska really caused them some problems with the way Nebraska played offensively, and I didn't think Illinois was, connected defensively. Since then, much better. I watched them a week later in St. Louis, and they crushed Missouri. They just win. They went and won at Purdue. The thing that scares you a little bit from Nebraska in that performance, and you needed a worldly performance from Sanford in the first half. And then Nebraska hit big shots when they needed to hit big shots. Sam was great in the second half. Of course, Jamarcus Lawrence. If you go back to that first game, is the Ivicic, is the Merkovics, the Stojakovics. Stojakovic played well. He had a double-double. But Merkovic and Ivicic did not play well. Nebraska was able to find a way to neutralize them. And since then, they have all contributed along the way of this 10-game winning streak. So, I said this yesterday. I think today's matchup is tougher for Nebraska than Michigan. I'm a bigger see into late March Fighting Illini than AM Wolverines. Even with their, they could be a hot or cold team because of what they do with the 3 ball. But I think they're 1 through 5. I think they're really, really good.
Fellas, on the football front, if you had to pick a Friday night opponent, who do you select? We know the Nebraska schedule drop happened earlier this week. Do you want to be in East Lansing, or do you want to be in Champaign, or do you have an other vote?
The other one would probably be the candidates I have in mind are Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan State. Those are the 3 Friday night candidates.
Yeah. And isn't Rutgers right before Ohio State?
Yeah.
If they play a Friday night game at Rutgers, does anybody know that they played it?
Oh, they'll stick it on Fox.
Well, every game's on, but does anybody actually know? I mean,
who
was it kind of thing?
Was it Oregon that played a Friday night game at Rutgers this year?
I know Iowa. I know Iowa has.
If you're like Fox and you're looking at it from promotion, the Michigan State game is the one I would do. Yeah. Fitzgerald's first conference game, East Lansing, weather's still going to be nice. You got Nebraska coming in. Nebraska, Michigan State on a Friday night in late September would be a nice little ratings bump.
To me, that's the one.
Yeah.
Nebraska, Illinois has already been done. Not that they care about it this year as to what's been done in last year's, but The game 2 years ago was on a Friday night in Lincoln. They played Friday night there already. I think the Michigan State one is the one, and I think that's probably the best setting for a Friday night game. Rutgers, nobody will know about the Rutgers game. Nebraska fans will forget they're playing Rutgers no matter if they play on a Friday or Saturday. That's so far out of sight and out of mind. Unless you're Mick Cronin, nobody knows that Rutgers is in the Big Ten.
Mick. He's an angry little dude, isn't he?
Well, ask him after their meltdown yesterday, losing at home to Indiana. Listen to his press conference after.
I get clips of Mick Cronin just because he is going to be he is must see TV for me because he's so grouchy and angry, and I think he's a good coach. I mean, I like Mick, but man, he hates his team every year.
Every time I see a Mick Cronin press conference, I think of Will Ferrell and Elf.
Yeah. Hey, back to Nebraska's schedule. You know what is
bad
this
plaid outfit? He's got some sort of plaid barfed all over him, and here we go. Someone said, "Wear a suit, Mick."
Hey, I can tell you there will be a game played at PBA today that is much different from a game that Mick Cronin coached in Lincoln. You guys remember, Bill, you weren't living here, but you remember the Cincinnati-Nebraska game when Miles was the head coach?
Wasn't that a rock fight, 58-55? It was the ugliest game.
You're being very kind calling it a rock fight. That game was an abomination. But back to Nebraska's schedule. You know what, guys, as we've all kind of looked through the schedule, I think a very sneaky game where both teams will be at that point, that Washington game, I think will be a game of a lot of intrigue from a Nebraska standpoint because there'll be a lot of focus on the two games before that. I think Washington's going to be a top 6 team in the Big Ten this year.
I think you're right. They got their quarterback back, and it's a game you got to have. I honestly think you got to. And this isn't me declaring they will do this. This is me saying in year 4 here's what you need to be able to do if you're Nebraska football. And I'm not saying or else. I'm saying this is where the program needs to be after year 4. You need to be able to at least go 3-1 in October. That's a big ask, or for sure 2-2. Based on your schedule. Then you got to go 2-2 in November. All right. You got to figure out a way to split Iowa or Ohio State and split, God forbid, Rutgers, Illinois, but change the conversation here of what your work has been shown in November.
Yeah. I mean, you're 2-10 in November and you have to go 500. How many games do you guys would look at this schedule, right? Just bam, without looking at the opponent's rosters and all that kind of stuff, that you would classify as a toss-up?
Brother, there's a way for this football team to lose all of them. There's a way for this football team to win 75% of them. I just don't know where they're at headspace-wise, where they're at depth-wise, and it's been such a cluster with the offense or the defense. There's been no complimentary ball. Very rarely. You got it occasionally against you got it really for the Michigan State game. That was it last year because your defense got lit up for 31 points by Maryland last year on the road. And then you know how the wheels came off defensively in that November month. They didn't help out at all any offensively either. After the first 20 plays, you'd score early and couldn't do anything late or after the second quarter. So I look at it and say, okay, there you can lose Michigan State. You shouldn't lose Maryland at home, but they got a good quarterback coming back. Indiana and Oregon speak for themselves, as does Washington. Illinois is tough. Rutgers, you're on the road. What's your headspace like at that point of the season? Are you beaten down? Are you on a losing streak? Do you have some momentum? I don't know. And then there's Ohio State and Iowa that are just tough, and they're better programs than you right now.
I say 3 toss-ups at Michigan State, I know it's Fitzgerald's first conference game.
We're coming off the Irish beforehand, so
I know,
that
but
helped.
it's a home game, and he knows how to coach the Big Ten. Jonathan Smith did not know how to coach the Big Ten. Fitzgerald's motivated. I'm going to put Washington in the toss-up because it's a home game, and at Rutgers because, again, like I said before, it's a Schnapp stadium. You can hear the bottle tip over, and what kind of atmosphere is there? It's like going to Purdue. So I would say those three. I think Nebraska can beat Washington at home on a Halloween night, but the rest of them uphill. First three, Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota ought to be wins. Ohio's coach last year went to the Sharon Moore coaching clinic, and they've had a coaching change. So I would think that they're not going to be prepared for their season. That'd be my guess. But Bowling Green and North Dakota ought to be wins. So I wouldn't put them in the toss-up category.
I might add Illinois to that list as well. We'll see what they look like. I mean,
they got a lot to fix or replace.
A lot to replace on that team. But how important optically for Matt Rule in Nebraska is that Michigan State game? Not necessarily for the national fan base or the national media, but for like the local fan base. If you can't beat Pat Fitzgerald in year one, that says a lot about your football program.
I agree.
Going on the road to East Lansing, it's not a daunting road environment, but it's not easy either. But
they'll be cranked up for that point of the year.
Depending on what happens the week before against Notre Dame, we'll see. That could let the air out of the building a little bit. But if you can't go and beat year one Pat Fitzgerald, what does that say about Nebraska under Matt Rule? Just simply put, year four. If you can't go and beat a year one Pat Fitzgerald team,
no, you got to win road games. I mean, they've done a fairly good job of in 3 years starting to beat teams that are in their neighborhood.
Yeah,
but you got to in this league, you got to win on the road. Man, I mean, the Big Ten is the Big Ten. It's got 3 straight national champions. I mean, every Saturday is going to be tough. But you gotta be able to win on the road, and also Nebraska's got to be better at home.
That's
Nebraska,
really it.
That is, and it's not just a Rule thing. It's been a thing for a while. Nebraska just hasn't been great at home. They just
2018's the last time they went unbeaten at home.
Man, that's wild. That's wild because then they when they were good, they were winning at home, and then you just said, all right, let's go be a road warrior and take care of business on the road. Now you were probably a little bit better equipped to beat anybody on your schedule. Is this the year? And I know we're doing this on February 1st, and we have a long time before the season begins. Will this be a year? Because there will be. Oh, maybe I'll ask this question to the panel: how many teams at the time that Nebraska plays them will be ranked this year? 2 for sure, 3 for sure.
3.
I'll put down 4. I think Washington will be ranked at that point in the season.
Okay, that's good. That's probably a fair call. 4 makes sense. You got
Indiana,
Oregon, Indiana, Washington, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Iowa.
What about Iowa?
I think are they young this year or no?
They're a mixture. They'll have a brand new quarterback, but Tim Lester is still their OC, and their offense has gotten better under him. Phil Parker didn't go anywhere. The biggest thing with Iowa will be LeVar Woods is now at Michigan State. Remember that. LeVar Woods, the special teams demon, who I think should be the next head coach at Iowa, he goes to work for Pat Fitzgerald because I think they basically said, hey, if you want to be the head coach at Iowa, you probably got to go somewhere else to prove, to say, hey, I've gone somewhere else. I've got my coaching chops. Fitzgerald is a great guy to work for. We love him at Iowa. He sent his son here. Go there, and then you can come back and be the head coach. But remember, Iowa won't have him. Michigan State will. I think Iowa will be one of those teams as the summer goes along. Now, their schedule, though, is not Iowa-like. Remember, we all looked at Iowa's schedule and went, wow, they're getting a break. Iowa's schedule at the beginning of the year is pretty tough, but still they've won 3 straight against Iowa or against Nebraska since Rule's been the head coach. I think they're going to be a team that'll get a lot of love during the offseason. People will go, man, who is that next team to jump up in the Big Ten that we're not expecting? And I think people might look at Iowa.
they've been hovering there, and you've been kind of waiting on Washington as well, with what they have been able to forcefully retain. They're good. Oregon's kind of reloaded. Their lines of scrimmage are pretty salty. What's Ohio State look like? They lose a lot, but they always kind of seem to reload. And I'm waiting for Michigan State to maybe climb up a little bit, because you don't usually have Michigan State and Michigan both really good. One's meddling and one's higher up on the food chain. You've got two really good coaches in that state now. I mean, you just do with Fitz and of course Whittingham. So does Michigan kind of make a jump or get back to their neighborhood? It is just a giant league. It's brutal. What happens with UCLA? Where's USC go, right? Because of all their talent acquisition and recruiting. And then Nebraska trying to find its spot.
Looking at Illinois' schedule, because they always flirt with the top 25. They've got UAB, Duke, Southern Illinois. Then they go on the road to Ohio State. So they're 3-1. Purdue, Michigan State, and they have Oregon. They could have 2 losses before they play Nebraska, but they would be to Oregon and Ohio State. So Illinois, if it's a typical Bielema team, they could certainly be a ranked team at that time too, November 7th, which seems like a little later in the season than Nebraska and Illinois usually play.
Yeah.
By a couple of weeks. It's all good. But no, I mean, it's going to be pretty fascinating to see where Nebraska ends up. You don't have a Minnesota on the schedule this year that has had your number.
A team that, because this is a huge year for Luke Fickell, Wisconsin has, compared to last year, Wisconsin's schedule is not bad. They do open with Notre Dame at Lambeau, but I think they only play 2 ranked teams in the Big Ten.
They got better as the year finished.
Yeah.
I mean, they found something.
Remember, he has beaten a ranked team.
Yeah.
They beat Washington when Washington was ranked and came into Madison last year.
They flipped it with how the year started. They're getting killed by everybody. That includes Maryland. And then to end the year, they fixed it. That is the Iron Horse. It's Gary Sharp, Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, bowler extraordinaire is Elijah Herbel, and Chris Schmidt, the Average Joe Sports Show, winding down a Sunday live on YouTube. To subscribe and like, find us there 7 days a week. AJ Sports Radio on Twitter as well. Guys, final thought.
Hold on. We waited 56 minutes and we haven't let Elijah brag.
All right, do it.
Do we have to? I mean, it was a good day at bowling for myself. the team, we always want to be a little better. We're not going to be a top 10 team in the city bowling tournament this year, but averaged a 195 across 3 games. It was a solid day. It had been a down year for me. 2025 was not my best year of bowling. We've been fighting through some injuries, fighting through some mental hurdles.
How many Caucasians did you have?
Not 0 drinks.
Why?
Wow. 0 drinks. I wanted to be at my best. I started off game 1 with a couple of strikes, and I'm like, okay, I might be on a heater today. This might be my Price Sanford first half against Illinois moment. The strikes were falling down yesterday. Averaged 195 across 3 games, which is the best I have bowled in a long time. I'd put it up to like 18 months, but I might be back.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What that bowler say that's on all the highlight reels? Was that Norm Duke? Like, I know you are, but I am.
Who do you think you are? I am.
That's
the legendary, the great Pete Weber.
Oh, it's Pete Weber?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know you are. What?
Who do you think you are? I am. Which the story goes that some kid in the front row was heckling him, and he actually screamed that at a 12-year-old.
Did he put his cigarette out on him too?
Back when bowling was a gentleman's game between Earl Anthony and Mark Roth on ABC's Wild World of Sports with Chris Schenkel, who is in the Bowlers Hall of Fame as a contributor, I might add. We didn't have that kind of behavior.
Did Lincoln ever have, because we did in Des Moines when I was growing up, you always had either Saturday or Sunday bowling show?
That was Omaha. Leisure Lanes with Joe Patrick. Bowling at Leisure. Bowling at Leisure with Joe Patrick. It was black and white, and if you left the head pin, which was a striped pin, that you got a car for a year or something.
Oh wow,
Joe Patrick, yeah. Bowling at Leisure
in Des Moines. Jim Zabel would go to Plaza Lanes, and the late longtime voice of the Hawkeyes, he would go to Plaza Lanes, and they would do on WHO on I think Saturday mornings they had bowling, and then they'd go to local wrestling with Mark Matthews, who would go on to be partially a voice of Oklahoma football for a bit. But yeah, Jim Zabel would be at Plaza Lanes. I always tried to go there to watch the show. I could never be on the show, but I went there to try and watch the show. But those used to be the days, Elijah. You could have been featured on Saturday or Sunday morning bowling on 10-11.
Bowling prodigy, Elijah Herbel.
Dick Janda would have been doing the play-by-play.
With his bag of tacos, baby.
And Elijah leaves another 7-pin.
Yeah.
And he's ready to throw something.
Yeah.
Game Dog notes that Chris Schenkel was a first ballot Hall of Famer on the bowling circuit. So he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Bill Belichick is not.
That's kind of funny. Actually.
Hey, would you? Well, I think all of us would. Well, one more thing. Would you give up Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Fame to have Roger Craig in the Hall of Fame?
Where is his
100%.
status at this season? Is it still up for vote, or has he been shut down again?
No, I think he is. Like, he made it to the final.
Good.
I mean, we're kind of exhausted. Yeah, he's a finalist. We're all kind of exhausted in trying to convince people that Roger Craig should have been in the Pro Football Hall of Fame a long time ago.
He has gone radio silent, dude. Like about after the third or fourth year that he got snubbed. Roger was always, and he is awesome, good dude, but he'd always, this goes back, 10, 15 years ago, where he'd do some interviews, right? And you could get a hold of him. Now it's just like the guy's, he is, and he should be. So he's a proud, incredible player that won multiple championships and was part of the reason you did it. And he's not in, and it's just BS. And this isn't a Nebraska homer thing. This is a obvious look at what he did, and look at some of the offenses that have followed suit with what Bill Walsh and Roger Craig did together. You don't have Marshall Falk. You don't have a whole bunch of dudes. McCaffrey. I mean, without having that style of back in an offense.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though, is tricky, is because and people are finding this out with the Belichick snub, because they're on they changed
Senior.
the rule. Yeah, the senior. So you only can have one of the 5 finalists can be enshrined. So this is who he is with: Belichick, Kraft, L.C. Greenwood, Ken Anderson.
Ooh.
Now
He should beat those guys out. I mean, you need to separate it from front office and coaching to player. It shouldn't all be lumped into one. Let me say that.
Well, and I think we're finding out that some people maybe voting thought that Belichick was in, so he had enough votes, so they were going to help somebody else out. Whatever went down there. I also think partly his post-Brady career, some people are still stung by that. But the fact that Roger Craig still, we could go another cycle, and Roger Craig is not up for the in the Hall of Fame. We didn't do that to Steelers players. There was this notion of, well, you were on a team with so many great players, and so many of those guys are already in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Look at all the Steelers that got into the Hall of Fame.
And Cowboys.
Yes, and Cowboys that were on great teams. Almost all of Roger Craig's great teammates have gone into Canton, and Roger Craig has not. And I know Roger is not out there, and he's not a guy that's in the media, and he's not doing all these interviews, so maybe you lose, track of him. Man, what you said, Schmidt, what we all know, he was so far ahead of his time.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say this too, like the fumble against the Giants. I mean, that's one play. That's one play as San Fran was going for a three-peat, and that was a war. I mean, you remember how good that Giants team was that beat the Bills. And you know who was on it? It was Belichick. It was Parcells. And it was it Hostetler, the quarterback for him? I think so. OJ Anderson. I mean, that was a squad, and those Giants San Francisco games were really legendary. And the fact that he got stripped, and then the Giants hit a monster long field goal attempt for the win in Candlestick in that wind. There's so many things that went into that game for San Fran to lose, not just the fumble. And there's a high level of belief that's one of the reasons he's being kept out. And it just shouldn't be the case. I mean, the first guy to go 1,000. It's incredible. And well, you'll see if I can't get Win, and if Roger gets on, we'll get. I don't know if Rogers would do a hit for us, but we'll get Tom Rathman on.
So real quick here, I think the last two Nebraska players that went into the Hall of Fame, Will Shields went in 15, and I'm pretty sure Mick Tingelhoff went in 15 as well. Sue is up for the Hall of Fame. He's eligible in 28. Do you think that he is a first ballot guy?
No.
I wonder, and I this is kind of my take on Belichick, is I wonder if there's people out there. Belichick, didn't make a lot of friends in the league. And then you have some of the cheating scandals with Deflategate, Spygate, whatnot. I wonder if part of this was, we'll vote Belichick into the Hall of Fame, but we don't want him to be a first ballot guy. And I wonder if the same will happen with Sue, where it's some of the dirty play allegations and whatnot. Sue's a Hall of Famer. I wonder if there will be the we'll get him in next year, but we don't want him to have the first ballot Hall of Famer next to his name whenever we put him in. I wonder if they fall victim to the same things. That's what I think happened with Belichick.
I think your standard statistically is Aaron Donald. When you're looking at defensive tackles, I think Sue's defensive tackle numbers, they stack up from all right, what neighborhood were you in your career? And Sue, when he was asked to, depending on what defense he was a part of, was a good sack guy from an interior. He had a couple of years, one for sure his rookie year, he had 10 or 10 and a half sacks with Detroit, but it just depends what defense he floated to, right? I mean, and look at his career. I mean, he got the Rams to a Super Bowl in the NFC Championship that year. He was teamed with Aaron Donald. So Sue, depending on what he was asked to do, did it at an amazingly high level, several All-Pros, several Pro Bowls. And the guy only missed one or two games, I think one in his career, and it was due to suspension. So his durability is insane. So Sue was an anchor. Who was the kid out of Auburn that was paired with Sue in Detroit?
Rocker or Porter?
No,
he had to retire because of a heart issue. He was part of that Auburn 20.
Yeah, he was on the championship team for Auburn.
Yeah.
Let me look.
But anywho,
yeah,
both those guys together were nice. But Sue helped that guy have some Pro Bowl years. Is what I'm saying. Think of the attention.
Yeah, Nick Fairley.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the problem with the Hall of Fame ballots on any sport are those in the media that have a holier than thou approach to it.
It's their get back at this player.
100%. Yeah, this guy was a dick to me and he pissed me off. So I'm going to show him, but I'm going to pontificate, as to my reasoning as to why I did not on this particular ballot, but we'll withhold for consideration for the next. It's like, come on. You didn't play in all likelihood. You don't know the game or whatever the case might be. It's just a personality conflict. And that's why Belichick got held out. I know some people have come forward and said, well, I looked at it and thought, well, there's a pretty good chance that he'll get voted in, or Robert Kraft, It's a personality issue with players and with the media. And that's what's going on. Why Roger Craig? I don't know. If they're holding a fumble against the Giants against him, which people continue to say, I would bet a lot of the members of the media who are voting probably weren't even around to understand what was happening in that game to begin with. Anybody who played the game understands how great Roger Craig was, and that he was the quintessential running back for this generation.
Go ask defensive coordinators how
Right.
much fun it was to try and game plan against St.
Go
Vincent
at,
because offense.
Bill
was
Walsh
Roger
probably
Craig.
isn't in the Hall of Fame without Roger Craig at running back, because they were able to utilize that position in a way that nobody really had ever done that in the NFL. He made that whole offense better. He made Joe Montana better. He made Jerry Rice better because he was such a threat carrying the ball or catching the ball out of the backfield. But nope, we already got enough 49ers in, and I've written enough stories about him. Look, here's another thing. Speaking about Huskers, and that's why, again, I don't think Ndamukong Suh's going to get in on a first ballot, because I think he pissed off too many people and they think he's too surly. I don't think Levante David would have gotten in Hall of Fame consideration had Tom Brady not gone to Tampa and revitalized that organization to where it became a contender and eventually a Super Bowl champion. Now that Levante David has a ring, and when those Tampa Bay teams were going from being on the regional 3-state Fox tier on Sunday afternoons, playing the Falcons and the Saints, and those were the only people watching Tampa Bay football were regionals. But Tom Brady going down there made them a national team, and people started talking about Levante David a hell of a lot more the last 3 or 4 years than they ever did in the first 10 years of his career. Yeah. So thank God for Tom Brady going to Tampa, because Levante David ought to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I'm not sure he would have been even in consideration had Brady not gone there and they won.
So, the thing about Levante David, and I mean, I think all signs point to he'll retire sometime this offseason, is so he would be eligible in 2031. That's when Phillip Rivers gets back eligible. If Travis Kelce doesn't come back, he would be on the same ballot. And Harrison Smith of Minnesota, who is not a first-team ballot guy, but will get a lot of run for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that the 2031 ballot will look pretty interesting. And then you have the holdovers from before. But the Levante David discussion, and I love these discussions, and we can do this in the summer, his discussion for being up for the Pro Football Hall of Fame will be fascinating on who is speaking for him and what you value in a football player. That these Pro Bowl appearances and all that stuff is garbage. The people that will get Levante David into the Pro Football Hall of Fame are people that watch football. Mm-hmm. And they don't look at numbers. They just watch football. And they talk to their peers. The peers that all say, like an Urlacher and a Kuechly and Ray Lewis and those guys, and say, that guy's a dude.
And that's who you hope will speak up for Levante, because you had such a crowded linebacking room when it comes to Pro Bowls and all pro picks, because his interceptions, his sacks, his fumbles, his tackles are right up there, and they're right there with a lot of the Ray Lewis numbers. So
hey, one more thing.
10 years, nobody paid attention to him because he
was buried.
Yeah,
he was on
playing
exile.
regional games on Fox. That was
He
it.
did have a Super Bowl with him, Sue, and Brady. That was a squad.
Yeah. The only thing that people cared about in those early Levante years, this is actually probably like 7 years into his career, was that the Jameis 30-30 season. That was like the only news coming out of Tampa Bay was Jameis somehow threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
Threw 30 to us, threw 30 to you.
One more thing, because Singleton and Wright looked good yesterday at the Senior Bowl. The combine invites, I think, are coming out here shortly. Don't they usually come out right after the Super Bowl?
It's in February.
Yeah, because the combine is at the end of this month, because it is now February. How many Nebraska guys get invited to the combine? Emmett won. Mm-hmm. I think the two guys that played yesterday find their way into a combine invite.
So 3 total.
Do you think Dane Key gets an invite?
That's the one I was just going to say. Maybe Dane Key.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. Cornerback. Sierra Wright.
Yeah, I think after yesterday, I think
Wright, Singleton, and Johnson probably all get.
Are probably your 3 combine guys. Yeah. Well, that's got to change.
Yeah, no kidding. And they'll have a pro day, and hopefully some.
I don't know if you guys have seen,
will be made.
I don't know if you guys have seen. So Emmett is now working full time for the combine. Wow, he was well put together before, Man, so I've seen some of his TikToks and other things, and he's been around. And I don't think he's going to be there today because I think is he in Florida? He's somewhere. Yeah, he's like full on get ready for the combine. Dude, he looks really good. I can't wait to see him with testing with his fellow running backs.
The number one thing we know about the short area change of direction, he can really help his stock if he puts up a good 40 time. That's like one of the big questions is, does he have the breakaway speed? If he can go put up a sub 4.540.
Can he just show them the clip of his UCLA touchdown where he actually ran away from guys?
And just put it on loop.
Well, remember, that's why Elijah brings up a good point. Like the beginning of EJ's career, he would say, hey, there goes. He's going to hit his head on the goalpost, and then he'd get caught from behind.
He was the closer back in the fourth quarter. I mean, in that first Rule season, he came in the fourth quarter and had a couple of games where his 20 or 25-yard run iced it, right? Yeah. So
I'd love to see out from behind against Iowa as well.
Yeah, I'd love to see him fourth round at Kansas City. I think he's a second day guy.
Yeah, he'd be. He's going to be fun to watch, given that next level opportunity. Fellas, we'll get ready to do it again. Enjoy Nebraska and Illinois
Predictions for today.
Yeah, who wins?
I'm going to say Illinois 77, Nebraska 74. Sorry.
I think the home court advantage is worth 2.5 points. I'm going to say Nebraska 77.5, Indiana 75.
Bill always pays up for that extra 0.5. I love it.
The push from Bill.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable not knowing the full status of Mast or Frager, but I believe that they will contribute in some way. It's going to be a tough game today. But I think the power of PBA, 76-75 Nebraska.
Okay, 1-pointer.
I think it's great. I think it's going to be a great game. I think this is
to be had by all.
These are the kind of games that you play on the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I also have PBA, the crowd pushing Nebraska to a victory late. I think they get a late cover with some free throws. Give me Nebraska 82, Illinois 77.
Okay.
Well, maybe two of the last four have gone to overtime between these two teams.
No 83-80 Jamarcus for the sequel.
I think he's got to have a big day, though.
I think you're right, for sure. Gary Sharp is the Iron Horse. Thanks for checking us out on the Average Joe Sports Show. Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, Elijah, the bowler extraordinaire. Chris Schmidt will be back at you tomorrow, 4 o'clock, with the Average Joe Sports Show. And like and subscribe. Check us out all 7 days a week, YouTube, and of course Instagram. And Elijah, real quick, folks can log on and get the merch, can't they?
Yeah, the Average Joe Sports Show merch page. You can find it. There's currently a link up on our Instagram page. So go follow our Instagram page first and foremost, the Average Joe Sports Show. Check out the story. You can get a link to, I believe the featured product right now there is the Average Joe Sports Show koozie. But orders have been getting delivered. Folks have been getting their merch from the first batch of orders. So you can go check that out. You can also go find it. It's on our YouTube page. There's a link in the post section, as well as if you scroll down, you can go find the shop. It's in our Twitter bio. It's in our Instagram bio. Plenty of places to go find the Average Joe Sports
Lots
Show.
of bikini orders, not from us, but
we're waiting on the first bikini order, actually. So somebody out there will get a lovely anniversary present for their wife.
Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Valentine's, yes, perfect. The Average Joe Sports Show bikini.
If you go to the second page, I notice you can buy the Average Joe banana hammock.
What?
You can.
Hey, when you are laying on the beach at Lenoma this upcoming summer,
I love the
you got the banana hammock on, and the Average Joe logo is right there below the belt buckle. Man, you're gonna have a good Saturday night in Ashland.
I'm buying the golf shirt. Everybody take care. We'll talk again. Thanks.